Please, go ahead.
Example of that? I want to follow up on that because it really leads perfectly into a kind of unbelievably irresponsible call and response between extremists in the United States, extreme political commentators in the United States, and a couple of people very prominent in the Middle East who are both religious and political commentators at the same time in the past few weeks over the subject of Iraq. In the United States, you've got a group of neoconservatives who are extremely right-wing, newspaper columnists, notably William Safire of the New York Times and Charles Krauthammer of the Washington Post, and they're both syndicated all over, making the most outrageously irresponsible statements about the forthcoming scheduled elections in Iraq, blaming the Iraqi Sunni community entirely, casting the war in Iraq as a war between the United States and the Kurds of Iraq and the Shia of Iraq all together against the Sunnis of Iraq, saying of the Sunnis of Iraq that they need to be suppressed violently by the other three groups, and if they cannot or do not or somehow are not able to participate in this election, which is to elect a body that will write the constitution for Iraq, not just a parliament. Right? It's a constitutional body that if somehow they're, for one reason or another, not included, well, too bad, and it's okay because this is really a war against them. Right? Unbelievably irresponsible. Almost really calling essentially for a civil war in Iraq and almost embracing the notion that partition of that country might be a desirable goal because the logical outcome of this kind of appalling caterwauling is that. On the other side of this divide, you've got Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi on Al Jazeera and other in his show, what's it called? Sharia wal Hayat or whatever it is, or the other way around, saying several times, not just once, but several times, that resistance, undefined, just generally, resistance to the occupation in Iraq is an individual duty, right? Now, here you've got, I think, an extraordinary situation. I mean, the guy is not a freelance operator. He sits there under the patronage of the royal family of Qatar. And you've got him and Al Jazeera sitting in the middle of Doha, and 15 miles behind, CENTCOM, right? This gigantic US military base out of which the invasion and occupation of Iraq is run, right? So you've got this situation where, in a sense, there's a facilitation of the entry into Iraq and then turning around and saying, okay, now the Americans are there, you guys go ahead and it's your duty to kill them. I mean, it's almost unspeakably irresponsible to say these things. And it comes back to a complete disregard for consequences, a complete disregard for the context. And I find in both of these positions an utter disregard for the fundamental interests of the Iraqi people who need to have calm, who need to have their country restored to them, who need to rebuild their society and not have a civil war egged on by Sharon supporting American columnists and not have an anarchic situation of generalized violence blessed by religious and political advice givers on television. I think it really leaves one tasting the immediate fruit of irresponsible political extremism from two different directions, colliding head-on like a couple of trains on an Indian railroad.